Hi, welcome back to Holistic Progressions. I'm Stacy Isidro, sex coach Stacy. Please go ahead and like my video and subscribe to my channel. I am just putting a couple of things out there just so we are starting to get some content. I will be making these kind of straight through. I am definitely not a video editor at this point in my career. So we're just going to dive in and go for it. So welcome to the journey. Today I'm going to talk a little bit about self-acceptance and sexuality and what that has in common. What's the point? What does that have to do with each other? One of the things that I've learned through working with people and through all the different certification programs that I've done is that ultimately people just want to be accepted and loved for who they are. And I believe that sexuality has been a way that people have been controlled and also manipulated through time. Our culture and society tends to give us some really negative messaging around sexuality, and I think we're seeing that manifest in our culture right now. You've got a lot of different, movements going on around sexuality with Me Too and Not All Men and LGBTQ movements and things like that. And ultimately, I really think is what's going on is all of this is coming to the surface now because there has been so much shame around sexuality and it has been used in a negative way to control and manipulate. I do believe that we're all sexual beings from conception until death, and that sexuality includes not only our bodies, but our mind and our spirit and our emotions and our energy. And when we're told that sex is only a physical act that occurs for procreation, it really leaves out all of these other aspects that we get to experience through sexuality. I think that sexuality really is ultimately about connection, and it's about love and also pleasure. It's ways that we connect with each other, and it's also ways that we connect with something that's greater than us, right? Like when you're having an orgasm that's mind blowing, most people will say, "Oh God," whether you believe in God or not. And it could be like this phenomenal out of body experience where you can feel so deeply connected with your partner and just to something greater than you, kind of that euphoric out of body experience that is fulfilling. It's like the biggest, most intense download of energy that we could possibly get, right? And I do believe that creative energy is also a form of sexual energy. It's just in a different phase of that spectrum. So, like when I'm belly dancing, I kind of lose track of time and space, and I'm really in that moment. And for me, that's a level of energy and energetic exchange that is really blissful. And there's an exchange between myself and something greater than me, and also with my audience, right? So that's also a form of that energy. However, when it is a sexual experience, it's way more intense and way more powerful than anything that I would be able to experience, in a creative pursuit, such as like my dancing or even just working out. I think that it's really important that we start to review the messages that we've been given around sexuality because it shapes the way that we see ourselves and it shapes the way that we see other people. I think that when we have self-acceptance around our sexual selves, that starts to manifest in different areas of our lives. So we can experience more self-esteem and self-worth through different activities that we do, whether it's work or in our family or in our hobbies. However, if we are still shamed sexually, we're missing a piece of that puzzle. It is such a part of being a human being that if that's not integrated into the whole self in a healthy way, then it starts to manifest negatively. So, one of my missions as a sex coach is to help release a lot of the shame and guilt and negative messages that we've received around sexuality so that we can be healthy sexually and we can have pleasurable sexual experiences and connect with ourselves more, connect with each other. And I also believe that that will help to remove some of the sexual violence and things that we're experiencing right now. I always say sexual violence is really, most of the time, it's about power and control. It's not necessarily about the sex. So, sexuality, again, being used in a negative way. One of the common denominators in people who identify as being addicted to porn or addicted to sex, the one thing they have in common that I've found through working with people that identify as this or think they have a problem with sexual expression, um, and research actually has started to show the number one thing that they have in common is very conservative religious and moral views around sexuality. So a lot of times people will find a turn on through something that is taboo. So if something has been a taboo for you, or if you have been told that it's wrong and not to do this, there's automatically kind of more of a draw. I don't know if anyone else has the inner rebel in them, but I know I do. So if someone tells me that you can't do this, I'm probably going to try to figure out a way to make that shit happen. So, just taking that into consideration, like when we release the shame and guilt and judgment around sexuality, then it kind of takes away all of those negative self expressions. We no longer have to hide who we are. Now, this doesn't mean that we're going out and projecting our sexuality onto everyone or everything. It teaches us to have a appropriate way to communicate our sexual needs and desires. It teaches us how to respect somebody else's needs and desires. When someone thinks different than us, then there's automatically some resistance. And especially if we're not okay with ourselves, we're going to find more problems with other people. It's always like the ones that are like railing against, no porn or no escorts or no homosexuality. They're ultimately the ones that are always outed for doing exactly what they have been preaching against. So I think that time and time again, we see that negative messages around sexuality and not accepting our sexual selves leads to more pain, and it leads to more judgment of other people. And ultimately, if we're judging other people that harshly, what are we really doing to ourselves? Because if you're like me, I know that I can pick myself apart and I will find something wrong with every video or every picture, or every single thing, to where I will just lead to inactivity. And I would never probably pick someone else apart the way that I can pick myself apart. So that's why I always say, if we're saying that about someone else, what are we doing to ourselves? And that's why I think that one of the most important relationships that we can have is the relationship with ourselves. And I'm full on Eckhart Tolle. There is no difference between the self and I simply am. And that's a beautiful place to be. However, that's not really helpful for me to help you. There's very few people that are kind of in that place. And if you are, congratulations. However, sometimes going through life, it's hard to stay there. In sexually speaking, even masturbation is the foundation for partner sex. So again, how we treat ourselves and our relationship with ourselves is also the basis of how we're going to relate to other people. So that is what I have to say for this video. I hope that you will like this video and subscribe to my channel and leave a comment and tell me how self-acceptance plays a role in your sexual life and your sexuality. That'll be interesting to hear about. Again, you can find me on holisticprogressions.com is my website. I have a Facebook that's Holistic Progressions, and also my Instagram is Sex Coach Stacy. There's an underscore in there. I'll put it in the description so you can find it. So I hope everyone's having a beautiful day, and I will see you in the next video. I'm going to try to get a few up here just to start somewhere, and we're just going to go on this journey together. So I'm really excited about it. I look forward to getting to know you more and you getting to know me more, and us ultimately having greater self-acceptance of ourselves and sexual self-acceptance so that we can start to accept other people and have healthier relationships and more fulfilling relationships, and obviously better sex and better orgasms. So I will see you next time, and until then,